Great, and we are live. Today is the 3rd of December, and this is OSRA Scrum. Here is Craig, Nick, Robbie, and me. And let's start with Craig.
Last night I helped Robbie with some Git, and then Brian felt out he was missing on the love, and so we had another hangout with Brian because he had some Git problems, and they took a little while longer to sort out than Robbie's. I'll come back to that in a second. And then I've noticed today Nick's done some code review, but I've not had a chance to look at it. I'm hoping to look at that tonight and sort it and make him happy.
It's not the code review yet, correct?
Is it not? It's just a solo hanging fruit.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
But that's as far as I've got. What is interesting is Brian, when he was doing some Git stuff yesterday. I've never thought about this before, and I guess it's the difference between git pull and git fetch and merge. I always git fetch and then merge, just because I think it gives me more flexibility. But Brian does a git pull, and what he did yesterday was he was on a repo and he did a git pull, and then he thought while he was there he'd not updated develop in ages, so he did git pull develop.
Git push develop.
No, git pull develop from upstream.
Oh, from upstream, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, to bring his stuff in line with upstream. And what actually happens is if you're not in the develop branch and you do git pull develop, it actually pulls develop into the branch that you're in.
Yep.
As I say, I'd never really concentrated on that because I always do a git fetch and then a git merge. But so he had, I think he'd done it with master and develop and a raft of ones. So he had a big mess when he pushed his code up. And so we spent some time trying to get rid of all those commits.
I know how it feels then, Craig.
Yeah.
Having pulled master into mine.
Oh, did you? Okay. So I mean,
I just started again. I ripped everything out and copied the files that changed over to somewhere else on the disk, and then restarted from scratch and put them back again. But
it was a worthwhile exercise. We learned quite a lot in the process.
How did you handle it then?
So what we did is I got him to make a new branch of upstream develop, and then we cherry picked each of his commits onto that new branch. But that's the short story.
Yeah,
we tried other things that were bits of disasters. Brian had read somewhere you can rebase onto a commit using some carry. You say git rebase minus onto, then the commit char and a carry at the end, and then the same commit char, and it's meant to take that commit out of the tree. I'm not sure, and we had some success with that until we started getting into bits that it didn't like and wanted to do three-way merges to fix the in-between bits. That turned out to be a bit of a disaster. But eventually we settled on the cherry pick, and that did work quite well.
That's good to know. I've never done cherry picking, but we brought it up, I remember, a while ago.
Yeah, I think if we ever have another problem, it'd be a worthwhile exercise to try again and just sort of smooth out any points. But it seemed to be
Okay.
That's me. Sorry, that's me.
Okay. Robbie?
Yeah, hi. Well, after getting a bit of help from Craig last night on the Git problems, I think I got myself sorted out, and I then pushed through did some changes to the branches, uh, replacing factories by fixtures, and then pushed that through. I don't know whether you've had a chance to look at that, Nick. I was out all day today.
Sorry, this is the branches you were talking about?
Yeah, changing the branches factories into fixtures.
No, I haven't had a chance, no.
Okay, so let me know. But apart from that, Nick, if you want me to do any other user stories tomorrow, that one's okay. Just give us a shout and send something my way.
All right. Yeah, we need to. Well, sorry, I'll let you finish, Robbie.
No, that was about it because I've been out all day today, so I haven't done anything today.
Okay. Excuse me. So if it's my turn then, I spent.
Oh, sorry, guys. My microphone was muted. Robbie, where is your photo in Jira?
Where is my what? Photo?
In Jira, yes, I see that gray face. No, it's not gray. White face on gray background. It's
That was after the night before. That was. No, I probably just haven't put a photo up. Does it take the Gravatar?
I'm not sure that it to Gravatar, but do you have it, Gravatar?
No, I haven't put it on Jira. I mean, you can see me on the kind of Google Hangout if you want.
You should upload, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, I'll do it sometime. Mm-hmm.
So we can easily understand who is where.
Yeah. Okay. I suppose because you haven't got a name against the who's doing what, so it's helpful to have a photo there. Yeah.
Yeah. But when you look at the board, it doesn't have names, just avatars.
Yes. Okay.
Okay. Oh, yeah, Robbie. Okay, Nick.
Right. So I spent most of the day today, or most of the free time that I had, trying to sort out the problem with our servers running out of memory when we try to import and upload orphan spreadsheets. And I've taken a few kind of blind alleys, or at least things that didn't work out in the end. But the last thing that I did, I posted about it on Slack. I changed the server that the application uses from Unicorn to Passenger. And I did it on my personal repo for the time being. I haven't submitted a pull request for it yet, but that actually seemed to have taken care of it. Basically, what I saw, and New Relic was a big help in figuring this out. What I saw that when we import the spreadsheet, the what is it, pending orphan list, I think, validate method is what takes the bulk of the time to run. And if you parse it down, if you look actually within that method, or I'm not even sure how to describe it because I don't fully understand it myself, but I guess I'll just keep using that terminology. Within that method, what was taking the most time was something called rack override method call. And from what little I read about it, it's something that checks every post request to see if there are some methods that are being overridden by the parameters in the post request. And to do that, it needs to parse through the entire body of the post request. So every time we were posting these spreadsheets, that method took over and basically scanned the entire thing to see if we were trying to do something And it seems that that was taking the time. So after switching the servers, that basically doesn't happen anymore. And what I see is that the time per request has remained about the same, but the bulk of it is spent in the queuing, in request queuing. I guess this isn't a good representative here, but this is what one of these New Relic graphs looks like. And I'm not even sure what this spike is because I haven't done anything with that server myself. But maybe if I go back in time a bit. Well, almost. If you can see this kind of fuzzy thing here, this was before. So this vertical line here, and that's when I deployed the new server. So before that, you can see uploading a spreadsheet spent a lot of time in middleware and a lot of time in Ruby. So these are the purple and the blue. Whereas after Passenger, after I switched to Passenger, primarily the time is being spent in request queuing. So if I understand it correctly, what it means is that when these requests come in, the server waits to hand them to the application. So it doesn't swamp the application, but it throttles the incoming requests. And that seems to be solving the problem. So this was something pretty major, I felt, because I don't think we could have gone to production with our application running out of memory on a regular basis. And hopefully this is something that takes care of it. Other than that, I started looking at Greg's pull request because that's another major story that needs to be finished before we go to production, but I haven't done very much there except for a few syntax comments. So that's my next priority, is to do code review on that. And that's it for me.
I like these charts.
Yeah. What else can I show you here?
Yeah, what else they have?
The other thing, Unicorn was configured to use, so you would configure how many instances, how many workers you wanted to be running, and it seemed to be running that many instances regardless of what the application was doing. Whereas Passenger seems to be assigning instances dynamically, so you specify the minimum and the maximum, and if it needs more, because one instance is busy, it bumps it up, but then goes back down to the minimum that you specified. There is this persistent memory creep that I notice, and this is regardless of what server is being used. Maybe it's you can see it best right after the server is restarted. So typically all the instances started out at about maybe 150 megabytes, and they slowly crept up to 200 or 250. I don't know why that's happening. The only event that is actually going on continuously while the application is idle is that New Relic pings it at regular intervals to see if it's up or not. I wouldn't think that would consume memory, but perhaps it does. But that can be turned off if we think that that's the culprit. Otherwise, sorry, just to finish up the demo here. So here, when you look at the overview, you get a list of transactions sorted by how much time they took. And you can see that the validate method is by far the biggest hitter.
Is that elapsed time then, or CPU time there was given?
I think this is time from when the request was made to when the response was made by the application.
Okay, so lapse time.
Maybe it's because of active admin. I don't know. 60. That's too much.
Yeah, I don't know enough to say.
2 seconds for just validation. Oh my god.
Well, a lot's going on there. You know, you're uploading a spreadsheet. The spreadsheet RuGem's kicking in. It's passing all that information. You know, considering when we were getting to 500 or 600 orphans with ActiveAdmin's filters, we were sort of hitting 1.3 seconds to just download and render a standard web page. I'm not sure that's...
So it's about validating of the whole orphan list.
Yeah.
Well, that's okay. That's reasonable.
I mean,
Well, I wanted to mention that this is something that we're, or at least I am, still rethinking whether any validations need to happen at that stage or not.
Yeah.
Because the other alternative that we're discussing is that the orphan list is imported as is, and it creates the objects, and then those objects validate themselves. So we don't care if the Excel spreadsheet is correct or not. We just leave it up to the models to handle all the validations.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, here, just to finish up, you can see that when I look specifically at the validate method on the pending orphan list controller, again, this blue line here is the deployment of the passenger server. Before that, there is this dark blue shorter peak, and that is the actual controller method, and then there is a tall purple peak, which is this rack method override.
Mm-hmm.
And after the deployment of passenger, that purple disappears completely. So the only thing that's actually consuming time and memory is our controller method.
Mm-hmm.
I had a look at the code there, and it seemed to be accessing a config file, which was something like settings.yaml.
Yeah.
And the only thought came to me is that file cached in memory by Rails? No, because if it's not cached, there was a lot of hits to that file. If it's going out to disk every time, it's going to slow that validation routine right down.
Absolutely, possibly, and that we're not happy with that anyway, and that's a job for a future refactoring.
To take that config file out, Craig?
Yeah, well, for several reasons. I mean, the one that you've mentioned, but the fact that it just doesn't sit right with us that we should be using a Rails setting file to put all our configurations in it. We're not really very happy with that.
Yeah, I can understand that. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
I have no idea what this is.
So looks so amazing, you know. If we can manage these things in our corporate environment with our servers, it would be nice. I do not think we have something like that. It's funny.
I'm not sure if you can. I think you should be able to enable New Relic. Like I don't think it's limited to Heroku.
New Relic. I don't know. The main problem on these servers that it's on the client side with big bureaucracy structure. You cannot install anything there. We can try to deploy it on our product or on our development server, but I'm even not sure that our system administrator knows anything about that stuff, you know.
He can learn.
Well, it may be not that easy.
Well, tell him the bunch of amateurs are using it.
Well, you know. Yeah, that's cool things.
Anyway, so I'll submit a pull request for this. I haven't played with it long enough to guarantee that this is going to take care of everything, but it seems to be doing a better job, at least for the time being, so it's worth a shot, I think.
Every time you knock one thing on the head and sort of fix it, even if it's not the ultimate problem, you're one step closer.
Yeah, valid point. I mean, just looking at something like this, the fact that we get away from, whatever this rack method is, I can't see how that's a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Anything else?
Well, the only thing that I want to discuss is today is Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
Our sprint ends, I don't know, let's say on the weekend, and we want to have a client meeting on Sunday. So ideally, by Friday evening, we would like to send the remaining two stories, 208 and 221, to the client for review. And that way, during the client meeting, if they say that everything looks fine, we're actually ready to push the button and go to production. But that means that, like I said, I'm starting to do code review on the orphan refactor. I don't know where Brian is with the start and end dates. He needs to do some. He needs to address some code review comments, and at the moment his build is actually failing. So something needs to be done there definitely. This story, OSRA 264, I sent it to the client, but I haven't heard anything back. But I would like. I mean, I don't think anybody wants this to go any longer than it has already. So ideally, we should kind of take a look at our priorities and focus on what really needs to be done right now.
Yeah. Where is Brian? I haven't seen him for a while.
He was on Slack earlier, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I just don't know. We need to for update orphan list, as I understand, it's on Craig's side now, right?
So Craig has submitted a pull request, and I've started just barely looking at it.
Ah, okay, on your side. And
Yeah.
start and end date still haven't been finished at all.
Well, he had a functional implementation, but then there were quite a few comments, as I recall. Do you remember, Craig?
It's gone back a while now. I can't.
Yeah.
No.
But I think there were several comments, at least, in code review, and he seems to have refocused completely on this migrating away from ActiveAdmin story. So, I'm not saying it's not worthwhile work, but it's something that can wait.
So he actually works on refactoring.
It was to do with getting error messages back, wasn't it? I think.
Yeah.
I wasn't happy with the fact that we were not using the model for validation.
Mm-hmm.
But in the end, we had to kind of settle for that remaining how it is for the time being, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see OSRA move partner to Rails, so he tried to get rid of ActiveAdmin.
Yeah.
It's risky, a bit risky. Well, okay, yes. What about the chores? There are a lot of them, and we have only like 3 days to finish them because we actually planned them in our sprint too. What's happened with the chores? Why we haven't worked on them?
I think the answer is that there has been lots of other stuff to do. I mean, this thing with moving away from active admin, that's a chore. So Brian's been working on that. Robbie's taken on these two chores, 267, 268. Craig's main chore, this refactoring of the importer, is sitting in code review right now.
Update gems, I don't know, move inappropriate code, something.
Yeah.
Foreign key constraints. We overestimate our ability, our capacity.
I think we overestimated slightly, but the other thing is, I know for me personally, at least, I've been dealing with this memory overrun on the server for the past 2 days at least. That was unexpected, but it's something that needs to be taken care of.
And it's a lot of time.
I mean, I'm walking blind here, basically. I don't know anything about this. I'm on Google and Stack Overflow constantly because I don't know what I'm doing. So yeah, it's not a smooth sailing.
Okay.
But I would also argue that at this point, taking on some chores, like for example, even this, moving inappropriate code out of config settings, it's probably too late to start this now. If we're at all serious about finishing by the end of the week.
Have we took any story or chore?
She's working with Brian on the Rails refactoring, is that it? The removing active admin?
I'm not sure. I think maybe's. If I had to guess, I would say yes, that's the impression I've been given, but I don't know definitively.
Yeah. She was in a hangout yesterday. She said that they've been working with Brian or will be working with Brian, but that's all I know.
Okay. Well, maybe Brian will join us tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll send him a message on Slack too to see what's the status of 208.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Any other questions, suggestions, ideas, problems?
I have a small question actually. Something that Brian pointed out. After we switched from Travis to Semaphore completely, coveralls no longer posts comments on our pull requests to tell us about code coverage. And that was, I think, for me at least, that was the main way that I kept an eye on it. Is this something worth bringing Travis back for so we can keep Semaphore as our continuous integration solution, but Travis will be there just for the purpose of connecting with coveralls?
My son trying to copy what you are saying.
Sounds like me.
Really?
Dinosaur.
Okay. What else?
I'm not bothered, I have to say.
Yeah.
If other people want it, then that's fine. But I'm not sure it's. I would rather. Well, I mean, we could. What interests me more is the 3.3 on the code climate.
Yeah.
And you know that I appreciate you posting that video. You know, I think there's a lot to be said for that. So, does it really matter if we're 100% covered if the tests are crap, as opposed to 80% or 90% covered if the tests are really good tests? I don't know. And how, I mean, at the end of the day, you have to have some sort of metric. I guess, to evaluate. But
yeah, fair enough. I think when I was making the specs for Motosim's, what was it, the import controllers, I really feel like I went overboard, I think, just to get to 100.
It's possibly, but you know, it's all about learning. And then, you know, when you read that, Sandy, another thing that rings out to me is, if you remember when we did the first lot of refactoring for Motosim's Orphan Importer, and it went to code review, and you had me going through a lot of private methods and what have you, and checking what was called. But you know, I still don't think that was a bad thing. I think it's a bad thing when you've got good code, but when you're not happy with the code and you have little faith in it, those things are quite often alarm bells that show you something's changed, that you wouldn't have ordinarily been aware. So I think how paranoid you are with your test reflects possibly how much trust you have in the code. Does that make sense?
Sure.
So, you know, yeah, maybe we have been, but we're never going to get it perfect, and it's only as we keep going over these things and reviewing them again and again and again that we're going to get better. And 9 times out of 10, you don't get better by getting it right the first time. You get better by, well, maybe I'm just trying to delude myself, but I think I get better by making a complete and utter arse of it the first time round, and then having to go through the pain of fixing it all.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is the story of my life.
Still learning, huh?
Yeah. I think it would be boring if it was easy.
I suppose. Okay. Yeah, so Brian expressed his opinion. You've given yours. If anybody else wants to say anything about it, by all means chime in. Like I said, I don't think it's going to affect anything, whether we turn on Travis or not. But just whether you like to see that every time a PR is submitted or not. This essentially comes down to personal preference. I don't think it affects our workflow very much.
Do we get any information back when we run our spec locally?
We could, but we don't.
Okay.
You could definitely configure SimpleCov to do that for you locally.
You know, maybe it's that rather than give you extra work and rig up all these additional SaaS services, it may be a case of saying, well, you know, it's there if you want it, hook it up.
Yeah. I also want to point out that even though we're not going to get those comments on our pull requests, we're still going to get these badges. So if you're really curious, you just come to the main repo.
Oh, well, that's
and there it
done
is.
Deal.
Although okay, there you go, it's passed now. Yeah, I'm still not entirely convinced that Semaphore is properly integrated with coveralls and with cold climate. I just need to keep an eye on it for the next couple of days.
Okay.
Okay, I think that's it for me this time.
Okay, guys. Then let's call it a day and see you tomorrow, unless someone wants to create Hangout parent session.
Okay.
All right.
Take care, guys.
All right, bye everyone.
Okay, sure.
Bye bye, guys.